Hey everybody, welcome back to another video. I am super excited about today's video because we are talking about high yield savings account and the S&P 500. Which one is the best place for your money, not just in 2025, but in years ahead, whether you're watching this video today or in the future, because making the wrong choice could cost you thousands or set you back years and your life, its way, and your money. Of course, it's too important for you to gamble with. And this idea came to mind because there was a point in life where I didn't know whether I should be saving or investing. So I want to go over the pros, the cons. I want to go over what each of these decisions entail. So that way you are not parking your money in a place where you won't be able to access it that quickly, or you may lose it. But at the same time, you're not just letting your money rot or just not making as much money as possible, and you are not building well. So here's the big money mistake that people are making. And this is something that I used to make, right? Because I didn't understand. We all start from zero. I get it. And that's the reason why I'm making this video. Because most people invest when they should save, or save when they should invest. So where do you really stand? And there are three factors for this. Number one is the fact that investing short-term money is risky. And what I mean short-term is money that you're going to need right now, or maybe in a month, or maybe in 6 months, maybe for unexpected bills. Maybe it's from your emergency fund. Maybe you're saving for your wedding. Like, I've heard some people that want to invest their mortgage, like the mortgage money. They say, hey, what if I put this in the stock market and something just goes. So just gambling. It's gambling with your life. So it's important because you could be forced to sell at a loss when you need it most. So think about that for a second. The second reason why this is important, it's because keeping everything in savings, and not even in a high yield savings, right? Sometimes we keep it in a regular savings account, which is even worse than anything. That's like the worst thing, that you might as well just keep it in your checking account. Or because I was talking to a friend a little while ago, and she was telling me like that she had like a lot of money sitting in the checking account, and she was not making the most out of it. She wasn't even aware of high yield savings. So it's important to know that keeping everything in savings means missing out on long-term growth and financial freedom, of course. So this is important to understand. That we're going to go over all these details here in a second. So you need to watch this until the end to make sure that you understand the full the context. So it's important to know when to save, when to invest. So we're going to go over the balance. So when should you use a high yield savings account versus stocks? Let's get right into it. All right, so let's start with the easiest one to understand. And this is something that I've been talking about here on the channel for quite a bit, and that is a high yield savings account. So what are they really good for? Like, let's just bring it down to the baseline. So high yield savings accounts are powerful only when used the right way. So they're best for short-term savings, as I mentioned a little earlier, maybe for your emergency fund, maybe for a big purchase. Like, for example, my wife and I, we just bought a car about a year ago today. And we love the car, right? We were able to use our passive income that we were making there. Like, it helped us save even more. And we paid the car cash, essentially. So that was a very big goal and a milestone that we were able to achieve, because we were able to take advantage of all these financial tools out there. So also, or anything that you need within 1 to 3 years. Now, 1 to 3 years, it's what I've been researching and what I've been finding. It's also something that I have a friend who is a financial advisor. This is exactly what she explained to me, and I'm going to go over more details here as we go forward. Also, high yield savings accounts are safe and predictable, generally speaking. They offer you guaranteed returns with no risk of losing money, as long as your bank is FDIC insured and your money is within the FDIC insurance limits or thresholds. So most banks out there offer you an FDIC insurance of up to $250,000. So let's say if you have $250,000, then you're good. If you have a little bit more than that, then you better add a joint, some other person to your account, or beneficiaries, because there are ways to increase that FDIC insurance when you start dealing with trusts. And it gets a little bit more complex, but it's something that you need to be aware of, so that way you're taking the best care of your money. But generally speaking, of course, high yield savings accounts are safe and predictable. Now, another reason why high yield savings accounts are good is because their earning potential nowadays it's strong. It's been trending down a little bit because the Federal Reserve is lowering interest rates, and high yield savings accounts depend on what the Federal Reserve does in the economy. So they are going down, but that's still much better than parking your money in a regular checking account or a regular savings account like Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Chase. Like, they're great for other things, but like not so much for savings. Now, high yield savings accounts are the best tool for money you can't afford to lose. That's really, in simple terms, what it comes down to. But what about investing, right? Like, isn't the stock market supposed to give better returns? And I'll have proof here, and I'm going to show you how that works here. All right, so now let's get into the S&P 500 and how it wins in the long term. Now, the S&P 500 is something that you may have heard of. It's one of the best wealth-building vehicles in history. It's also recommended by Uncle Warren Buffett, who talks about the S&P 500 and index funds. So index funds grow at 7% annually on average, taking into account inflation, which this can help you create real wealth. And it's really about the time, right? It's not about timing the market. You don't want to time it. You don't want to like make sure like, oh, I need to sell, I need to buy. It's like, no, it's about long term. It's about time in the market. The market has always recovered from crashes. It's volatile in the short term, but stable long term. So if you think about this, I'm going to be showing you here a graph to help you visualize what I'm talking about. But it's almost like, for example, when I'm losing weight, right? Like, I've lost weight multiple times. I've been overweight. Like, my maximum was 215 pounds, and I'm 5'11". And so, okay, so I was a little chunky, right? So when I lost 40 pounds, my weight loss wasn't like this, right? It wasn't a straight line. It was like, it would go down, it would go up, and it will go down, it will go up, and it will go down. So it was trending down, like day by day, my weight would fluctuate, but overall, it will be going down. That's how I was able to go all the way down to 168. I was too skinny at that point. So the point here that I'm trying to make is that the S&P 500, you gotta notice that it's like that, but in reverse. As opposed to going down like weight loss journeys, it goes up over time, right? So that's exactly what the S&P 500 does and how the data has shown it behaves. So also, investing is a long-term gain because your money needs time to compound and grow exponentially. If you don't need the money for 5 years, investing may be the best option for you to build your wealth. So here's the thing. The reason why it's 5 years, and this goes back to what my financial advisor friend was telling me and she was teaching me, is that 5 years, it's a really good timeline for the market to recover. So for instance, if you, let's say that you put $10,000 in the stock market now and it dips, right? So the economy may be going through a hard time now. So 5 years is usually a time when the economy, it can stabilize itself, it can grow, and that way you can still come out ahead. So that's why it's recommended by personal finance experts out there and advisors that if you won't need your money in less than 5 years, then exploring the S&P 500, it's a good option. It may be the best option to build wealth. But what about risk? We all know that stocks can crash. If anything can change from one day to another, like we're talking about, like maybe politics starts affecting the stock market. High yield savings accounts can also drop rates. Like, how do you balance both of these options? And that's exactly what we're going to go over here in the next section. Now, here I'm going to show you 2 examples on how the S&P 500 recovers over time. I want to take you back in time here to 2007 when the economy was about to crash. Like, everybody remembers what happened in 2008. I was only 18, 19 years old. I didn't quite understand how the economy was doing. All I knew at the time was that things were expensive, right? I remember just putting $20 of gas in my car. I didn't care how much it bought me. I would just put $20. Like, just put $20 and then just keep going, man. Like, don't worry about it. Sometimes it will give me a lot, sometimes a little. So, but I'm sure that if you are a little bit older, you remember, like, it was tough to get jobs. And of course, the 401ks crashed. It was just a financial mess. And this is when the stock market dropped, like it crashed. If you can see here right on the screen, there's a huge dip, but there's always light at the end of the tunnel. And that's exactly how the S&P 500 recovers. And so you're going to see here that it took a little bit. And in 2009, approximately, it started going back up. And again, it's kind of like a weight loss journey in reverse. It goes up and down, up and down, up and down, but the general trend it's going up. Now, here's another example of what happened in 2020, because 2020 was also a crazy time, and I'm sure you remember exactly how 2020 was for you. Certainly I do. It was nuts. So we have here another data about 2020 here, right about March, right? Things started dipping and going crazy. And then, of course, again, the S&P 500 started going back up, and then it goes down, and then it goes back up. So I hope that these two examples clearly illustrate exactly how the S&P 500 recovers. And that's what's been happening for the last 30 years, 40 years with index funds and the S&P 500. I'm not talking here about individual stocks, but it's important to remember that we're talking about here the top 500 companies in the United States and how the top 500 companies perform over time. Now, one thing that really comes to mind when people explain the S&P 500, which I kind of like, is that if something happens with the S&P 500 and doesn't recover, that means the top 500 companies in the United States, something seriously wrong happened with those companies. And so at that point, you are dealing with much bigger problems than the stock market, where there's a zombie apocalypse, there's something big going on. So that just gives you, of course, a little bit more peace of mind and hopefully lowers your stress when you start investing in low cost index funds. So I'm going to go over cost here and fees in this right here. All right, so here I decided to put a side-by-side comparison on risk level, potential returns, etc. Identifying the key features that are going to help you decide which one is best for you. So we have high yield savings account on one side, the S&P 500 as percentage P. So excuse that. So when it comes to risk level, of course, high yield savings accounts are low. S&P 500 is moderate to high. And I said high here because if you don't use them long term, right? If you just keep switching and selling, that's not the strategy for the S&P 500. They're about moderate if you just minimum to moderate if you let it grow and you just set it and forget it. That's something personally that I do. $100 a month, just put them there. I recently actually just opened my Roth IRA yesterday, and I'm going to start investing in S&P 500 through my Roth IRA. So that's something that I personally stand behind. Now, when it comes to potential returns, so right now, again, high yield savings accounts are quite high, still quite high. They're around 4%. And the S&P 500 has historically returned about 10%. If you take into account inflation, then this drops to approximately 7%. Now, liquidity. Now, when it comes to liquidity, of course, liquidity means how easy the cash is to access. How easy can you access the cash? Can you go to an ATM? Can you just go down the street and get your cash? High yield savings accounts are highly liquid. They're much liquid, like the 100%. Let's say high yield savings accounts are 100% liquid. S&P probably about 70, 80% liquid, maybe even 90%. You can sell your stocks, you can sell everything, but it will take a little bit of time for you to transfer that money to your checking account and you'll be able to actually get it in hand. So, for example, they wouldn't be good for an emergency that you need right now. Maybe your pet needs surgery, maybe your car, you need to pay the car guy, right? Something just happened to your car. So if you need the money on the weekends, then you may not be able to access it because the transaction needs to be processed. And so that's what I mean by liquidity. And so high yield savings accounts here are by far the best options when it comes to liquidity and easy access to your money. Now, when it comes to volatility, as I mentioned, high yield savings accounts, the volatility is slow. They go up slowly over time or they go down slowly over time. That's different when respect to the S&P 500 because, as I mentioned, they go up and down, up and down, up and down, but then over time it goes up. Now, here's something that's going to help you with peace of mind, and that is the FDIC insurance, because FDIC insurance is not given to the S&P 500. You are essentially on your own, and that's money that you, again, put there at risk, right? And then we already talked about risk, but when it comes to high yield savings accounts, they do offer FDIC insurance at least up to $250,000. Again, there are ways for you to play with this number and increase it. So I suggest that you look into other videos that I make here on the channel that go over high yield savings accounts in more detail. Now, minimum investment, of course, often low or none. You can start with $1. I've started high yield savings accounts for research purposes, but with $0, right? But with S&P 500, I personally learned that you can buy S&P 500 index funds for as little as $1. And the one that I personally buy is at the SWPPX. There's a bunch of them out there. That's the one that is low cost for me, something that I just kind of okay, my account is with Schwab. when it comes to brokerage. So you can buy anyone out there. Okay. So this is just the one that I personally buy. All right. So when it comes to fees, usually high yield savings accounts don't have any fees. If they do have a fee, you need to go get another bank because you shouldn't be charged for keeping your money in a high yield savings account. And when it comes to S&P 500, here's something that I learned from the book, The Smart Investor. It's right there. It's called The Basics of Investing by Benjamin Graham. I think that's called. There's a little book I'm going to show here on the screen. But low expense ratios. Expense ratios is essentially a fee that the broker charges you for maintaining your account, for just keeping your account there. Anything below 0.2% is good. And this is very important because this is the fee, the monthly fee. This is the fee that brokers charge you. Whether you lose money or you gain money, you're going to pay that fee. Okay. So this is very important. If you are getting charged more than 0.5% or 1%, especially for funds where you are managing yourself, then that's a red flag in my eyes. So always keep in mind fees and the cost of keeping your investments in the broker. So make sure that you understand that. Remember this, please, because that can make a big difference in the long run. All right. So to bring everything together, here is how you can use both of these options in order to help you grow your wealth while still being secure financially. So you can use a high yield savings account for short-term needs, maybe for 1 to 3 years for your emergency funds, a down payment on a house, maybe traveling, maybe a car. And you can use index funds for long-term growth, 5+ years, maybe retirement, wealth building, passive income. And so you want to make sure that you avoid putting short-term money that you're going to need for emergencies and unexpected bills in stocks because market drops could leave you in financial trouble. So please remember this to make sure that you match your money with your timeline to avoid costly mistakes. So now that you know this strategy, where should you actually open a high yield savings account? So here's exactly how I balance saving and investing. So my emergency funds and my short-term savings is in a high yield savings account. That's my personal safety net. And also for long-term wealth, I go in on index funds. Mainly that's majority of my portfolio. And so that's where majority of my money again goes into index funds. And so I personally don't like to risk money that I'm not willing to lose. So for example, I've invested in other stocks and a little bit more riskier, but that money that I am willing to lose, right? I kind of forget about it. I'm like, okay, I'm just about to lose $100, right? So but for money that I really truly want just to build my wealth, then I make sure that I just go in on S&P 500 because I'm just an overall low to medium risk, especially also because I'm young. And so that's just how my mindset is wired. So following a clear strategy keeps your money safe while growing your wealth. So let me know in the comments how you will take action today. Now, make sure that you open a high yield savings account. If you need one, there's going to be a few recommendations in the link below. If you want to start investing and you open an account with buying index funds today, there's also going to be a link in the description. You can get a free stock. And so don't wait because every day you delay is money that you are missing out on. So make your money work for you, secure it, grow it, and build your future. So make sure that you check the links in the description if you want to get started with any of these two options. And let me know in the comments what kind of questions you have. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and most importantly, share. Peace.